What do you guys? What do you want to talk about? I don't even. I got nothing.
I gotta know, Dave. Were you awake when it happened?
No.
So what was like waking up to that news?
Well, I woke up at like, I woke up in time. I woke up and it was the post game show.
Okay.
So the first thing, of course, is I checked to see the box score, and I saw that Benjamin had a monster game, and I was like, nuts, because I didn't have him ranked high enough, and that's kind of eating me up this morning. And then I go to Twitter and I see the news, and it's like, wow, pretty crazy. And like I wanted to jump out of bed and start doing research right then and there, and I didn't. I went back to sleep. Got it done this morning.
I didn't even know how to research it. It's so different than anything we've seen.
It really is. This is going to be a very interesting, I don't want to say test, but like you think about the history of Kyle Shanahan and what he's done. This is going to be so different because it's a running back with a pedigree. He just gave up 4 draft picks including a second. He's never spent any type of capital like that on a running back before. He hasn't had a track record of throwing to his running backs. He'd be dumb to not do that. He's always had the track record of using multiple running backs. He'd be dumb to do that. He's had a track record of breaking his running backs. I hope we don't do that. But he also does have a track record of taking guys who are no names and turning them into like must starts in fantasy football. And here's a guy who's already a must start in fantasy football, who's got a chance to see like maybe the best efficiency of his career potentially. Like it's exciting to have him in San Francisco, but the stakes are as high as they've ever been for Christian McCaffrey, man. Like his upside's never been higher, and his injury risk, it feels like has never been higher. I'm at the point now where I hope he plays 17 games. I hope I'm dead wrong on telling people that, he's an injury risk and you shouldn't take him first overall. I want to see this offense at full strength all season for the rest of this season. And
so the thing that, and Adam, obviously we spoke about this at length last night, but the thing that, just thinking about it, and Dave touched on a few of these things, they've basically lit the last 2 third-round picks on fire with their draft picks with Trey Sermon and Tyrion Davis-Price. They, and for a team and for a coach that has found running backs out of nowhere, I was texting with a few of my 49ers friends, and one was like, oh my God, this is so awesome, we got Christian McCaffrey. One was like, why did we just give up everything for a running back? Now, you would say they hopefully have their quarterback situation for a few years established, right? We don't know, but they probably think that they do because they invested so much in.
They better hope so.
Or maybe Garoppolo, but at least they've made the swing for a quarterback already. But for this year, he can't block, and they have some offensive line concerns. He can't tackle, and they have a lot of holes on defense right now because of injuries. And so this just feels so weird because it was not a position of need for them. However, that being said, this could be so much fun, because of all the potential that they now have with this offense. It could just be the best offensive football, but it has the potential to be there. It all hinges clearly on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Rank your top 5 running backs rest of season.
McCaffrey's at the top of the list. He just is. I put McCaffrey 1, Barkley 2, Eckler 3, Chubb 4, Henry 5.
No Taylor.
Everybody still healthy?
Who?
We're saying everybody healthy, right?
Yeah. Including Jonathan Taylor.
1.
Don't forget about Taylor here.
I know.
Eckler would be 1. Barkley would be 2. McCaffrey would be 3. Taylor will be 4. Henry 5.
Okay. So no Chubb for you in the top 5 in PPR. Dave had him, I think, 4th. All right, so pretty similar list there. McCaffrey no lower than 3 for Dave or Jamie. Now, we'll go to Carolina in a second, and we already kind of did this. Just listen to the bonus podcast that Jamie and I recorded, but there, even just 8 hours later, there are things that I see that changed from last night. For example, perhaps I judged Chuba Hubbard a little bit too harshly. When you look at the last 5 games of the season last year, the second time McCaffrey got hurt, Hubbard wasn't very good and didn't get that many carries. But, man, he faced the Bucs twice. He faced the Saints. He faced the Bills. And he faced the Falcons, who I think had a pretty good run defense in the second half. But at least those last 3 games were Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo before that. So perhaps I judged him a little bit too harshly. so that was one thing. Things change when you have time to actually dig into it here. But Dave, I mean, we kind of talked about the idea that everybody in the 49ers passing game, except for Garoppolo, loses with the addition of Christian McCaffrey. Do you think that's the case? You just fewer targets for Debo, for Ayuk, for Kittle.
Yeah, in theory, yeah, I think their ceiling comes down just a little bit. I think that you're still going to start Debo. You're still going to start Kittle. You're probably going to look at Ayuk as like a number 3 or a flex, and judge the matchup a little bit when it comes to these guys. But I don't see a scenario where you're going to sit Debo or Kittle. And there's a chance where Jimmy Garoppolo ends up being a usable starter rest of season. So if you picked him up to be your bye week quarterback this week, you might have hit it a little bit.
Yeah. And for the Panthers, Jamie, reassessing the backfield there, you said you'd rather have Foreman in non or half. You'd rather have Hubbard in full PPR. They weren't running the ball. I think McCaffrey was only averaging about 14 carries per game, but he was obviously getting a ton of catches. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough week, you think, against the 49ers. But going forward, these guys I think they're both available still in more than half of CBS leagues. What is your
when I went to sleep last night after we were done, and I went back through all my leagues just to see, and for a few that were on waivers, just to make some bids on both guys. As I said then, I'll say it again. As I said last night, I'll say it again now. Please do not drop anybody of significance on your roster for these guys. They're not going to be good. You're hoping for one of them to stand out above the other and give you some semblance of volume, and that could be something that you hang your hat on. But you're talking about a flex option at best. McCaffrey was making just play after play that these guys can't make. And so this team is going to be absolutely horrible. So the hope would be is that one gets a lion's share of the touches. I can't see that happening, but maybe that's the case. So the thing you want to do is, like I told you last night, like I dropped Russell Wilson in the leagues where I wasn't starting him and just, moved on already. I dropped Josh Reynolds and Josh Palmer and guys like that. I saw a lot of drop Michael Carter. You want to drop Michael Carter, it's fine. We had this conversation about Samaje Perine, if you're the Joe Mixon owner, dropping a handcuff of a player that you think might have more upside. That's a choice you have to make. But I don't think we know until we see what they're going to do. Like, we had this conversation Dave and I did on HQ earlier. It might have been last week, but in terms of if you're the Panthers and you're making this move, why would you not see if Chuba Hubbard could be your number 2 guy moving forward and give him some more opportunities as the younger back? Deontay Foreman is not their future. Hubbard's not their feature guy, but he might be somebody that they could have to rely on in a pinch. Now, granted, they had this last year and they may have seen enough, or they may want to see a little bit more. I don't know, but don't overspend for them. Don't reach for them. Don't drop anybody of significance for them, but it is worth your interest to see what happens, at least this weekend, from a usage standpoint, to see if you have somebody to potentially as a flex option moving forward.
I got a stat and I got a game. Which do you want first?
Game, stat.
The stat. The Carolina Panthers have run 2 plays all season inside of 5 yards from the goal line.
Yikes.
Enjoy that one if you're banking on Deontay Foreman to be a touchdown hog, because he won't be hogging that much. All right, the game. I'm going to name a player. These are players who were dropped in our leagues for Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. You tell me if you would have dropped them for one of these players. Deion Jackson.
Yes.
Easy.
Logan Thomas.
Yes.
Easy.
Will Dissly.
Yeah.
Easy.
Kylan Granson.
Yep.
Yeah. What
Latavius Murray.
No.
Yep.
So the point is that 4 of the 5 names, total guys that you don't see yourself starting. What's the point of having them? Let them go. See what you get with Chuba or Foreman. The last guy, Latavius Murray, you can make the case could be the lead running back for Denver for whatever that's worth. Do you want to let him go for the leading running back in Carolina? I say no. It really just depends on your taste and whether or not you want to trust them. But like, these are the types of players you should be dropping in exchange just to see what you get, kicking the tires, so to speak, on Hubbard or Foreman. I like Chuba better for the reasons that Jamie outlined. I think he's the better passing downs back. For whatever it's worth, 2 months ago, he looked pretty good in the preseason. Foreman did not. We'll see what happens there. But this is a team that I think they are clearly not prioritizing winning. If they happen to win, that's great. But I can't expect a lot of even decent games. So the question comes back to everybody. If they're not going to be a productive offense, what's the point of carrying these guys on your fantasy team for more than a week or two? And the answer is there isn't one. After a week or two, if neither of them are doing anything, you're going to see them go right back on the waiver wire. And the guys that were dropped for them are guys that you're going to miss that much. And that's the way it should be.
Would you have spent $31 out of original $100 budget on
No.
Chuba Hubbard?
I wouldn't have spent 3.
Well, that's what I did.
Why?
Because I'm 1-5. It's the podcast league. It's 14 teams. I dropped Jared Goff. I have Jeff Wilson as my number 2 running back. So it's desperation. But
I think
I spoke about it last night. I wasn't that excited about it, but there are circumstances where you have to get any running.
Yeah, if your team stinks and you're what are you saving your fab money for?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think my team stinks, by the way. It's Taylor and Keenan Allen are my first 2 picks. But
yeah, I mean, I spent $11 on Hubbard in one league just to see, and my team's 2-4. So if I lose this week again, okay, there goes my fab budget. I don't care.
Exactly. Right. What am I waiting for?
Right.
Yeah. All right. I mean, like, we can't give blanket statements. I could see scenarios where if you're desperate, you have to get these guys.
I got a lot of questions last night, though, Adam, in response to the stuff we were doing, dropping Jeff Wilson for one of those guys, and that comes down, I think, to 2 things. One, Dave alluded to this: are you buying Christian McCaffrey staying healthy? But there's still Elijah Mitchell looming. So if you're looking to maybe pivot from a backup to a potential starter, I don't have a problem with that. This week's an interesting one because who knows how much McCaffrey plays, so it depends on what you need. But I think you can certainly get away with dropping one of the 49ers running backs for a Panthers running back, not named McCaffrey.
Yeah, the only consideration, let's finish with this thought. The only consideration is week 7, because we don't know what McCaffrey's role is going to be. He might have a small red zone package.
If he's active, you start him.
If he's active, you start him as what?
Yeah.
I mean, would you start him over Ezekiel Elliott, your start of the week?
So that's exactly the line where I put him right now in my rankings. I have Elliott at 14. I put McCaffrey at 13. So depending on what we hear over the weekend, I might pivot off that. But it's as Adam Schefter said, he's a pretty smart guy. Went Stanford. I can't imagine that there's not a few things that they say, do this, do that, do this. He can handle it. And then as the game unfolds, they probably lean on him maybe a little bit more. So if Christian McCaffrey's dressing, it's very difficult to say I'm not playing him in your fantasy.
Okay, and we'll of course have a mailbag episode to keep you updated on things. We'll have a FFT and 5 at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning to keep you updated on things and tell you who to start and who to sit. But I guess my point was, if you're going to drop Jeff Wilson for Chuba Hubbard or Deontay Foreman, McCaffrey might not play this week, and Wilson could be a starter for you this week. So just keep that in consideration.
I think Wilson deserves a bench spot. Just knowing what we know about 49ers running backs, knowing what we know about Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, but Mitchell might be back next week.
Or he might not be back at all, and that's why they made this deal.
Fair point.
Dave,
I also think they made this deal to keep the Rams away from getting him. Like, just a little part of the deal.
That would be the absolute dumbest thing ever. First of all, it's pretty dumb.
I agree, but I think that they're so, like, they want to win the division. They want to make the playoffs. And if they're trying to keep away, like maybe they threw in the 5th round pick. Just as a little cherry on top.
If they did that for purposes of keeping him away from somebody else, Les Snead is the GM of the year. If he drove up the price,
he might be anyway.
Make another team do that, then they're absolute geniuses.
All right. So, Dave,
last question. Can I have one more question?
15. I'm sorry. We're 14 minutes in.
Okay,
15-second answer on this. DJ Moore, does his value go up or down or the same?
Can he get traded?
Right. If he's traded, then it goes up. And maybe if Darnold becomes the quarterback, it goes up a little bit.
Okay. All right.
I can't believe that's a sentence I just said.
We have a lot of.
By the way, I told you this line last night. Hysterical. He said on HQ, I've been begging for the Panthers to upgrade over Sam Darnold for DJ Moore, and now I'm begging for the Panthers to put Sam Darnold back in for DJ Moore.